Ah, okay. Sorry, I I don't have any makeup on. I feel really naked. Um, I work from home, so I don't put makeup on when I'm at home, surprisingly. Um, I like eyeliner. You probably have noticed that. Anyways, I got started really late watching a movie, but it was about to expire. It's 12:02 right now, so that means it is expired from PBS. This is maybe the most under the gun I've ever watched a film. This is the new American Masters, but as you know, many of these American Masters start out as documentaries that play festivals, etc., and occasionally get wide release, or not wide release, but like a release in theaters prior to um, being on American Masters. And I'm not sure if this did or not, but on IMDb it says 2017, so it must have played somewhere at a festival or something in 2017. This is, of course, um, Tracy Heather Strain's Sighted Eyes, Feeling Heart, which is a documentary about Lorraine Hansberry. I had not watched the trailer, so going into it, they did not touch on her being a lesbian for about an hour, and I was like so nervous. I was like, please tell me you didn't do a 2-hour documentary about her and like cut that out. They didn't, so you won't have to go through that stress. You'll know that it's coming. But basically, the film follows the life of Lorraine Hansberry from her birth, her relationship with her father, how he shaped who she became as an adult, her unsuccessful attempt at college, her life in Greenwich Village, her marriage, her rise to fame with Raisin in the Sun, and then her the strange, like 4-year period after that came out, and 6-year period after that came out, the various writing projects that never quite came off the ground, and then her untimely death, which, spoiler alert, and if you haven't already read about this, was from cancer. But like many women, and there's so many women from the 50s and 60s that I've read about that died of cancer, never knowing they had cancer, because back then doctors were allowed to tell husbands that their wives had cancer and could keep it from their wives. So anytime someone's like, oh, women didn't have it that bad, I always like, there's so many ways that women lost their autonomy when they got married that I'm like shocked that so many women got married. It boggles. One part of this movie that I really loved was when they talk about how right after she got married, she read The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir, and then it made her rethink everything. I still haven't read that book, but I bought that new adaptation translation that came out a few years ago, and I need to read it, but it's like 800 pages, and it's a lot of pages. I love how it showed how multifaceted she is, or was. I love all the different people they talked to who knew her, from friends to relatives to people who were in her plays like Sidney Poitier, to people who backed her plays like Harry Belafonte. They even had an archival interview with Ruby Dee. At first I was like, wait, I'm pretty sure Ruby Dee's dead. Ruby Dee died 4 years ago. So that happened. But a beautiful interview with her. They did recreations of some of her diary excerpts read by Anika Noni Rose, as if she were Lorraine Hansberry. It's deeply researched, beautifully constructed portrait of a radical woman who was so many things. And the little bit about how she sort of was in the closet as a lesbian publicly, although she was very open about all of her beliefs in every other facet of her life, was really sad and really showed you what the mid-century was like for so many gay men and women. It's always hard to watch documentaries or read biographies of people who were gay at that time, because America was so terrible and so much of the world was so terrible. But then, they make the point that not only was she a lesbian, she was a woman, she was black, she was a radical. She was so many things, all of which were not necessarily, and at one point she was a communist. All of this was not exactly great things to be in the 1950s, and they show that, and they show how all of these things and all this conflict challenged her to tell imperative stories and to do something different. And important, and it's wonderful. And if I should have grabbed it before I came, she's this great autobiography that was she was working on, I guess, when she died, that was then put together by her ex-husband, quasi-widower. They were divorced at that point. But after she died, he put together her autobiographical writing and sketches and things into a really great book called Young, Gifted, and Black. And I highly recommend reading that. That was a phrase she coined at a graduation speech, I believe. And then was later turned into a song by Nina Simone, who was a friend of hers. And the book is just amazing and a must read, especially if you love A Raisin in the Sun. And if you've not read Raisin in the Sun, do that. It also showed how fiercely protective she was of that work when it was being adapted by Hollywood, and that she held out until a studio would let her write the screenplay, although apparently the first draft allowed her to do all kinds of things to show the racial segregation and issues in Chicago. It got sliced and sliced and sliced. And so the version of the movie that you see isn't even as wonderful as the play, though obviously getting to see Sydney and Ruby Dee recreate those roles that they created on Broadway is a treat. And to her words, they at least didn't butcher it completely. So there's that. But anyways, this was a lovely documentary. I highly recommend it. I don't know how you're gonna watch it, because I literally watched it under the wire on PBS. But I think a lot of these American Masters you can buy them on DVD from PBS, and we all should be supporting PBS right now, because for some reason our government right now keeps cutting all of the arts funding, and it's like, one, that's always the lowest funding anyways, and two, do you know what keeps society together and keeps us glued and keeps us grounded? It's art. Damn it, it's art. Anyways, watch this movie, donate to PBS, read all of her work, keep fighting the good fight. Have a good night.